Welcome to this special edition of Virtual's the Small Business Show. My name is Swire from Garuda Promo. Today we have Josh Weiss from LA Creating Technology and also Amir, the Sales and Service Manager. How you doing, guys?
How's it going, Swire?
Well,
Kind of a crazy day in the world.
Yeah, we have some big news, and both of us in California and working from home or remotely now.
It's really crazy. I mean, the last couple of days, we've got clients working from home who 10 days ago had never even wanted their employees to work outside of the office. It's changed completely.
Okay, as a small business owner standpoint, like, can you walk us through some of the challenges, the things that clients call you about? Can you and maybe give us tips on how to solve that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I guess from a really high level view, and I've got something in the background that we'll go over in a second. But from a high level view, I think that a lot of bosses and company owners have been used to their employees maybe, checking their email at night or maybe getting a document prepared or something like that. But, most companies haven't thought through in a really large scale way what it means to have an entire workforce that's no longer in the office. And so, we have some clients who were already working as a distributed workforce. Like, we had a company who was all business coaches who worked all over the country. We have one client who does marketing analysis and marketing surveys. And, they all just work off their laptops, and their whole company is Microsoft and Google. So on the one side of the spectrum, there's a certain type of company, usually a very quote unquote millennial company who, and I count my company in that. I mean, we have an office. Amir's actually still in the office since all the rest of us aren't there. We're like that. But then on the other end of the spectrum, we have companies who never had remote access to their files, never had remote access to anything, and sort of forbade their employees from working from home. And they had to make the decision really in the last week to change everything around.
Yeah, everything happened so quickly.
It's super crazy, right? I mean, both San Francisco and LA got less than 24 hours for the shutdown.
Yeah.
So I know that a certain amount of companies have already figured this out, but there's a lot of other companies that are still scrambling. And, what we're seeing, and what I'm going to jump into now with these categories, is that for a certain amount of companies, maybe everyone talks every day on Zoom now, or everyone accesses their file on Dropbox, but they haven't really thought about in any meaningful way what it means to transition to a remote workforce. So what that means in practice is maybe they haven't thought about the security implications, or maybe they haven't thought about how to communicate with their team. They just picked a solution and they ran with it because they had no preparation and no choice. So, I mean, I guess before I jump into this, Swire, I mean, you run a small business, and, what have you seen from the people that you've spoken to? And, what are the situations that you've heard about in the last couple of days? So maybe I can relate some of what I'm saying back to that.
Well, like you said, some people are more ready than the others, especially I think I read, you can have all kinds of firewalls and hardware for your security, but then the weakest link is always the user itself. And right now, we may have laptop, or we might have, using our home computer that we play video games on. And now we're accessing our work files, and we might be opening sensitive material. And Amir actually sent me a link of hacker activity, actually way more that in the times like this right now. So I'm sure there are going to be more fishy email trying to incorporate into shopping or whatever site that people go into, and they might click the wrong file, then it compromises everything. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, I want to see, like, in terms of readiness, like how does it take to be ready for working remotely and securely?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm going to try to go through these really quickly. What you see behind us is the assessment that we've been running for our clients, essentially to kind of see how far along they are. What you're looking at right now is actually a prospect that we've been talking to. They have less than a 20% readiness, which is pretty wild. So, I mean, if I'm going to go down these categories from a remote work readiness perspective, the first thing that have been seeing a lot of this week is just like, how do our employees access their files when they're not in the office? Because some people never had a solution for that before this week, right? So from a strictly sort of, the thing that I see people being the most prepared for overall is like, do my employees have a decent computer at home? Do my employees have decent internet at home? Are our files in the cloud, right? This is the first kind of level of questions that people are asking. And generally it's the easiest because maybe they're just like, yeah, we have Dropbox and our employees have a decent computer. So just like Swire said, it might be the computer we play video games on at home, but at least we have a computer, right? At least we have the internet. At least, there's some way to access the files. So without going kind of boring people and getting into a lot of details, that's where we decide what's the access and what computer are we going to use to take care of it, and can we forward our phone numbers from the office to home,
That's important. Yes.
So those are some super basic examples of what we've been helping people do this week, and we've done it all. We've set people up. Some people brought their phones home from the office, or we forward the numbers, right? We set up VPNs and Dropboxes. That's the basics. Going on to the next level, though, we have remote work capabilities, and this is something, LA Creative Technologies, we have team members all over the world. I have 2 full-time employees who work internationally. We work with a variety of service desks. We have a team in Pittsburgh. We have a team in Mumbai, India. We've got people all over the place. And so we're really used to working in a distributed workforce. So we chat on Slack all the time. We kind of know how to get work done. Me and Amir are used to working in different rooms. So that's really where the readiness comes in is, do you know how to work together? Do you have a way to communicate with each other? Do you have a way to assign tasks to each other? Essentially, do you know how to keep productive when you're not in the same place, right? Do you have a way to educate people about how to work in different places and how to keep your sort of team spirit together, even if you're apart? So, at LA Creative, we're used to that, but a lot of my companies, they only know how to have a team meeting in person. And so all of a sudden they're scrambling.
Or they're trying to prepare for it, but then like this virus has pushed everyone, like now you actually do it. So some might not even know what to do. They rehearse for it, but now is go time. Some of them even haven't tested for it.
They haven't tested it. That's one of the things we're hearing. But so when we go ahead and talk about this remote, like remote work capabilities, it comes from a remote work adoption. How do we actually work together? And then it comes from a policy perspective is like, what is our remote work policy? Actually, Amir and I have been working on a remote work policy. If anyone listening needs that, you can just send us a message. Basically, what do you want to tell your team is appropriate while you're working from home? I have friends who work in really large Southern California school districts, and I can tell you they are 100% unprepared for this thing at all. It's wild. So, in this case, this is what we're talking about. The next level that we go into is the network readiness. And what this really comes down to, if you're a company who's always just worked from the cloud, you might not even have a network, so to speak, right? Because before we were talking about what's the home internet connection. But let's say for my clients who are architecture firms, they have people connecting back to the home network. Is the home network adequate from that, or is the home network buggy, right? If you have an unstable network that your team works from, all of a sudden it's going to be really, 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 really hard to connect to. So if you're someone who's still got a network that is sitting in an office downtown, you've got all your people working remotely, have you thought about how stable that network is? Do you need to get an emergency better internet connection in so your staff can connect to that? That's what this whole thing is about network readiness. It's the only piece that won't apply to everybody listening here, because it only applies if you have a home base office, but nonetheless, it's really important. Amir and I have been talking about the fact that we're glad we have 2 internet connections at our office in case we have an emergency and we need to go into that office.
So that's like a backup that you guys use in case of
yes.
emergency.
Okay. We have one from AT&T and we have one from Spectrum, just so that we know that we have a place to go in the emergency.
Right.
Now, moving on down from there, this is a big one, is the business continuity plan, which basically says, what is your plan to keep your business running? Right? We have an architect they're probably billing $10,000 an hour. They have all these architects, right? If they couldn't work for like a week, they're screwed.
Yeah.
If they couldn't work for a week, they're screwed, right? So then it's like the business continuity plan is like, do we have redundancies in place? Like, do we know how our employees are going to keep working if everything is not working, right? And like, what's the process? Who's watching it? Is someone watching that the backups are still functioning? It's like, you've basically got this situation where IT departments are emptying out. So even if you're a business owner watching this thing and you have an IT personnel, do they know how to keep their process back going if they're not in the office? Because a lot of them don't. So that's kind of where this whole thing about business continuity comes into place, right? Like your whole sense of operations has just changed week over week. How are you going to keep things running?
Is this something in case you're not set up right now? Like how long does it take to run the assessment and advise them to set on the right place?
We can run this assessment in 30 minutes.
Okay.
I don't know. It looks like my Zoom just went out. My video may have just cut out, but I think you guys can still hear me.
I can hear you. Yes.
Cool. Yeah, I'm just going to keep talking while I hop back onto this thing. But yeah, this is an assessment that we can run in 30 minutes. This is really quick, right? I mean, we've been building. I'll tell you the thing that's been the most amazing for us is that we've been working with a lot of clients for years who never paid attention to the fact that we were protecting their infrastructure and had backup plans for them. And It's only been this week where we got to put all the stuff into practice.
It's just things like that, like if it never happened, like why are you so worried? And now they pay 100% attention, I'm sure.
Yeah, this is really IT's time to shine, right? We're one of the few industries that's really, really in place. So we just talked about 4 things. We talked about how your employees access their data, whether your employees know how to work remotely. We talked about we talked about the readiness of your network. We talked about your business continuity. Then we come down to what's my favorite part, which is the security stuff. And even though you guys can't see my screen right now, the idea here is that security has gone completely haywire because you probably had a firewall in your office. You probably have an IT staff. If you get a phishing email, you can tap someone on the shoulder and ask them what they think about it. At this point, it's anyone's guess, right? So what we think is the most important for people is we offer trainings to companies about cybersecurity. And even if you have some security in place and your employees had an antivirus at the office, they're now working unprotected on their home networks. And now is the time to do awareness trainings for your employees. Now is the time to run phishing tests on your employees because they need to be trained, right? They've got their kids running around in the background while they're trying to work. They're dealing with big deals all over. Everyone's scared right now, right? It's kind of like how like everyone I know who goes to Barcelona on vacation gets pickpocketed. It's like people are disoriented. They're running around. They're on the metro. It's 100 degrees outside. Everything's happening. The language is different. No one in the world knows how to deal with a pandemic. And right now is the time to test your employees and train your employees and put protection on their home computers because it's anyone's guess what's going to happen right now.
Is this something that you can help the client remotely and help them?
This is what we do.
Okay.
Yeah, we do remote training for employees. We do these assessments. We do trainings. It's really our bread and butter. But now it's just pivoted to take care of this new situation in the world. So
if you could give us some takeaways for most of us who are starting to work remotely and from home today, like what are some of the must-do that you would suggest?
Yeah, the must-dos is going to be prepare a work from home policy for your employees and actually talk to them about it. Don't just make it a piece of paper. The other must-do, I would say, is to run some tests on your employees. Like evaluate your security posture now that people are in this new situation. So we're going to be running phishing tests for all of our clients next week to see how much better or worse people are doing in this new situation. If you've never done that, now is the time to do it. And the other one is turn on 2-factor authentication. That one you don't even need IT for. every major provider, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, everyone has two-factor authentication. Now is the time to turn it on if you haven't done it yet.
Okay.
Those are really, really major things, because it's so easy now that, I mean, let's say your kid accidentally leaks your password because you are doing this whole thing on the video game computer at the house, right? It's like, it's
Yeah,
anybody's guess what's
or
going to happen
even
right now.
I'm typing up an email. I went outside and got some water, and he could, send my email.
Yeah. So it's like, then that's why I'm
It could
saying,
happen.
that's why I'm saying we have to reevaluate stuff from this new perspective, right? Everyone's got their kids home. Everyone's working from home on new equipment. It's like this is a changed situation from a week ago.
We're not the only ones that know that. Obviously, the hackers also know it, and they're so it's
well. And what's interesting about that too is, even not that it's just like now everyone's home, so even just like your hobby hackers are just hanging out hacking.
Yeah.
So those are my tips. It's just like have a policy, do some testing, and beef up your protection, even if all you do is turn on two-factor authentication, which is free. It's wild.
Hey guys, thanks for the help today. I'm going to put both of your information and then a link to your website. So if any viewer has any more question or have specific question for you guys, I'll have them reach out to you directly. Thank you so much, guys.
Hey, thank you, Swire.
All right, take care.